Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right, good evening and welcome to WSBI, your Resource for Success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore, CEO and founder of the Women's Small Business Initiative, LLC, and award-winning author. And welcome to another night of sharing. With us, we have music artist Freddie Stover. Miss Freddie has been singing for 25 years. She started out singing in church at the age of 15. She currently has an electric blues band, Miss Freddie's Blues Band, and an acoustic four-piece Miss Freddy's Homecookin band. She sings for charity, festivals, and community events. She is a 2018 Blues Music Award nominee for Best Emerging Artist, CD and Koko Taylor Traditional Blues Female. She also is a surgical oncology nurse in the outpatient setting. So without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform, Miss Freddie Stover. Hey, Freddie, how are you?
I'm doing well, Kimberly. Thank you for having me on. Good evening. Hi, everyone out there.
Well, it's so exciting to have you. I cannot wait to hear more of your story, and I cannot wait to hear your song later on this evening as well. So I'm telling you, my listeners, that you guys got a treat ahead of you. So, all right, Miss Freddie.
I love introductions like that because it has people on that, they're sitting on the edge of their seat. They're like, okay, come on, what do you got for us?
Exactly, yeah. And I always like to throw it in their face a little longer, because it's like, hey, I'm not sharing it right now, but you will get to hear it sooner or later. So, I'm excited, like I said, to have you on. I can't wait to hear your story, and I'm sure everybody else is looking to hear the same. So, Miss Freddie, before we get started with the interview per se, why don't you tell my listeners just a little bit more about who Freddie Stover really is?
Well, I'm a mom, of course, and you heard that I'm a nurse and a musician, and I have a couple hobbies whenever I can, get together and do them. But I pretty much I combine my nursing and music together. I have done that the last several years, maybe 10, 15 years. And it's such a joy because I love both. And being a cancer survivor twice myself, breast cancer, I've taken care of those patients and people with pancreatic, rectal, and colon cancers. And, I thought I knew how people felt when they heard the big C until I got the news. And I cried for 24 hours straight. And it taught me a lesson. That was the first time. The second time, I knew it was back. So it's a life lesson. I don't take anything for granted. And I absolutely love what I do. Yes, cancer is very sad. I don't care if you survived it, if, someone who's passed away of it. It can be very, very, it's a challenge. And so me as a person, I'm very open about my experiences as a nurse, being on both sides, because both my parents passed away of cancer, and my maternal grandfather. So I tell people I can relate on all sides, and that's me, being able to relate to people. I'm not perfect.
Right.
There's days I say, leave me alone, don't bother me. And then there's days, and those are very, very few days. But there's days that it's just, I look at people and I look at the world and I said, I'm one person, but if I could just touch one person, I'm happy. And I'm the mother of two sons. My youngest is on the autism spectrum, and he's the joy of my life. He plays harmonica too.
Wow. Okay.
So,
Music
he's
is
not in a
running
band
through
or
the family.
anything. He just, yeah. And my oldest, he used to, before he had his family, he used to write rap songs. He's really a good writer, and I tried to get him to write songs for me. He's like, no, Mom, he's like, I said, okay. But, and it's okay. And, I really, I've gotten back into reading. But I get a joy out of meeting people. And even in the pandemic, it's been a challenge, but it's been awesome. And I just want to thank everybody out there, for the kind words and the words of encouragement, support. So that's who I am in a nutshell. And you know what, Kim? I'm approachable. I guess I am. Because even with my mask on, strangers come up and start telling me their problems. I'm like, you realize you have no idea who I am.
Right. But it must be something in those eyes, Miss Freddie, right? I mean, come on now. Your personality is bubbly, so that shines on the outside, even with the mask. I mean, and just hearing your conversation and the joy in your voice is incredible, and it's contagious, so we've only been talking for a second. I'm just sitting here like, oh, she's so sweet. I just love it.
Oh, thank you. I'll talk to my siblings and my nieces and nephews. No, but you know what? I really try to be, and even though as an adult I'm still learning and I'm still processing. But one thing I have learned, and that's my saying, and I tell people, I even tell our patients, no matter what or who, don't let nothing drag your spirit down. Because at the end of the day, it's not sounding conceited, but it is about you, the individual. Because if you don't have yourself together, how are you going to get together with the rest of us, on this planet? So I think that's important. I think self-awareness, self-care, and, just self-being is important. So that's who I am. Do I even want to be a motivational speaker? No, I do it through music. Thank you.
I was going to say, you're already there. So, but you have converted it over into the other world. But, just to hear your story and you sharing, you being a cancer survivor and so forth, it's a blessing to have you here. And I appreciate you, sharing that story with people, because a lot of people are definitely going through what you've been through and have gone through. And like I said, you can understand both sides of the realm, being that you're a nurse and then being an actual patient. And of course, your family, my condolences to your family and you have lost a lot.
Thank you.
But to know that you have the spirit that you have and that you are here and you realize that living is what's most important. And I think a lot of people need to hear that story and to understand that, we all have our good and our bad days. And we have those moments when we don't know where we're going to, or if we're going to stay, especially in the circumstances that you have come out of, you still have to have that spirit of realizing that the most important part is that what happened has happened. You can't change that, but you can definitely continue to move forward and continue to grow and to learn. And you have done that. And the thing that stands out the most to me that you're talking about in your story is that how do you become a surgical oncology nurse and then you're doing music? So tell us how the two tie together and how you've brought them together and why it's important for you to be one or the other, or how, like I said, it's been blended together.
Well, to answer the last part of your question, it's important to have both in my life. And I became a nurse first. And I've been a nurse for 34 years. I'm proud to say that. And I'm still too young to retire, so we'll have to move on from that. We'll have to move on. But, I got into music when I was a kid, singing with a couple neighborhood friends. And my mother bought me a pink microphone, plastic, for Christmas. And we just would, just sit around and we sing, just make up songs or sing whatever was out. Moving forward, joined the church choir at 15. Oh, my goodness. I couldn't sing. That solo was horrible. You should have heard it. That church went silent. That church was packed because I think it was our anniversary, that church I belonged to. And I said, I won't do that. And that's where my stage fright came in. I was so scared to death. And so moving on, I joined church choirs, but I never did a solo, was not interested. I never had a lesson in my life. Never, ever.
Wow.
And in 96, I was dating a guy that played bass in a blues band, and he heard me sing Silent Night to my youngest. And he's like, and I was singing a cappella. He's like, I didn't know you could sing. I said, I didn't know I could sing either. And he said they were looking for a singer. And I'm like, oh, no. But he convinced me, and I joined him. And, it's kind of interesting because a few local musicians who have known me that long know that story, and they've seen me perform. Mm-hmm. The band's facing the audience. I'm facing the wall in a chair. And I'm sitting in a chair singing. We might have 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour gigs. I did that for a year until my mentor, the band leader, Big Al, he said, Freddie, you're going to have to try to come out of that some kind of way because people want to hear you. And I said, well, they hear me already. He's like, no. He said, it's important that they see you.
Exactly.
I said, so, I was scared to death. But then, as a nurse, I'm already, talking to people, communicating. Mm-hmm. And I love doing patient family teaching. I love the education. If somebody, and I used to do home care a lot. I loved my home care job, but I went back to bedside nursing. Mm-hmm. And the music, it really came about when, as far as nursing, I would walk around on the floors because I've worked night turn, and I might be worried about all my patients or a couple. And then I would have to prioritize which patient needs me first. Mm-hmm. And I was I'm still the type of nurse. I don't do bedside nursing now, but, I tell my patients I'm going to check on you every hour and an hour. If I'm running late, I'm in the bathroom. And they're like, what? I said, yeah. And I would sing up and down the hall, and my coworkers are like, oh, she's worried about somebody. Something's going on. She'll be all right. And I did that throughout my, years. And then there's a program here in Pittsburgh called Music Smiles under the Sonny Pugar Memorial Foundation. Sonny Pugar was a drummer who died of pancreatic cancer some years ago. Mm-hmm. And his wife, Annie, keeps it going. And that's where I started singing in nursing homes, in the local hospitals, but my favorite hospital singing is a children's hospital. I love it.
Yes, yes.
Kids are so, and that's where I got God was trying to tell me something. I knew I was supposed to do something. I said, and here it is. This is what I'm supposed to do because these people are stuck here for whatever length of time, and they're going through something, and they probably feel like they don't, nobody cares. Mm-hmm. Nurses are just here getting their paycheck or whatever the thought is. So when I sing, Kimberly, I choose songs that are uplifting, and I choose songs that tell a story, and I joke during my shows. People love it. They're like, did that really happen, Miss Freddie? I said, well, who do you think you're talking to? I said, come on now, really? And so when I combine all of that, my job as a nurse and a musician is to try to soften the human spirit, what it's going through its anxiety, its anger, its sadness, and depression. So hopefully that answers your question by hearing that. I call it the backline story of who I am and why I do it. And I think until this day, I have patients that when I first started this new job 2.5 years ago, they saw my coat, my lab coat, and they're like, there's one other person that spells their name like that. You're not Miss Freddie. And I'm like, yeah, it's me.
Wow.
And I have patients that, they have seen me. And so, now they can put 2 to 2 together. They're like, oh, so you really are a nurse. I said, do you think I was lying? I said, are you kidding me? I said, of course.
Well, what it is, people, it's amazing how people, don't realize you still have a real life, and not that music, if it's full time, it doesn't mean it's not a real life, but, to have those connections that you have within your community, and then being a nurse, people, like I said, bringing that name, and your name is very unique, and especially the way it's spelled. So, to see it and then put it all together, it's like, okay, now it all makes sense. But, to hear how you, like I said, you're just electrifying. I mean, everything in your voice and your tone, you uplift people by just talking. So I can only imagine what it sounds like to hear you singing through those hallways, or to think it, even if you are worried, but it still will ease, somebody else's pain at that moment because you're uplifting them in a different type of a way, and it just, like I said, it's exciting to know that you have that ability to be able to help others. Even if you're not having a good day, nobody would ever know it.
Yeah, and that's, that's really important because I tell people, nowadays, I said there's days that, I may have excruciating headache, or something's going on, or I'm sad about something happened, and I'm trying to work through it. But my job now, 90% of my job that I do now is by the phone. And I know about a year and a half ago, something was on my mind. I was very sad, and I answered the phone, like thinking of what I was going through. And it was a patient, and the patient knew because we had been talking on the phone,
Right.
And she's like, "What's the matter?" I said, "Nothing." She's like, "No, that's not right." And I said, No. And God forgive me, I had to say a prayer. I was reading something, though. I said, "I'm just reading something," which was true. Mm-hmm. And then when I hung up, I said, I made a promise to myself. I said, I will never, ever, ever sound angry or sad or depressed, because I may be the last person that person talks to on the phone, and right. I don't want them thinking this is it. So, yeah, and I think it's so important. My mother had a nice phone voice. Man, she's a Southern woman, though. She's different with us kids, but to hear my mom talk on the phone, she had the nicest voice. I'm like, how do you be getting stuff, and the rest of us can't get stuff, or we can't get things done? And my ex-mother-in-law made recipes. She had the nicest voice. Mm-hmm. She's like, the kids are coming, the grandkids come in the house, blah, 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 so-and-so, da, da, da. She picks up the phone. She's just as nice as pie. Wow. We pick up the phone. Well, we don't care about you, but we did talk to your mother or your mother-in-law. I said, come on. So the power of voice is important. It really, I tell everybody, it is so important.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So, Miss Freddie, let's talk about your journey as a musician in your band. You have two bands. So you have an electric blues band, and as we talked about earlier, it's called Miss Freddy's Blues Band, and then you have an acoustic 4-piece Miss Freddy's Homecookin band. Talk about the journey of being a music artist, but then also let's hear a little bit about the differences between the two bands and why you have two.
And I just added a third one 2 days ago.
We'll you know what? You are too much for me. Well, then let's hear about all three of them then.
I know. I just added that stuff. But, when I joined Blues Music Work in 96, I was with Big Al and his band till about 2002, 2003, because I wanted to venture off and see how that was. I watched Al booking the gigs and, getting the music together, the musicians. And I did that. And it was tough. Like, I didn't have a CD. My name, people kind of knew me locally, but, it's like, well, do you have any music? No. So what song I chose, and I would go into the different venues and sing a cappella, is At Last. Oh. To get my shows, to get my gigs. I would go sing At Last. And it's like, okay, you're hired. I'm like, really? And I had to go through series of musicians till about 2009 when my current guitar player, who was the guitar player of my first band, he was leaving as I was coming. And he's a great guitar player. I mean, he's awesome. And I'm not just saying that. He is so good. I just he has me spoiled. Both my bands have me spoiled. Mm-hmm. And so, his name's Greg Tafil. And from that, I got my permanent bass player. I got a lap steel guitar player, drummer. And so these guys started out 2009 when I formed that whole band, because it used to be called Blue Phase, F-A-Z-E. Okay. And then the guys in the band, they're like, well, people come out to see you. They're not interested in us. I'm like, no. See, I'm the type of person. They come out to see us. They're like, no, they come out to see you. Mm-hmm. Whose name do you think they be calling when I say? I'm like, I try not to look at that. But, and our sound, the electric blues band sound, is very unique, because I've had a couple musicians who, have come up to me. It's like, you guys do songs that nobody else does here in Pittsburgh. I said, that's the whole point, to set yourself apart. I said, as much as I love Mustang Sally, I'm like, I don't think so. I've done it a few times, but I've done it differently. I've done it like on R&B, jazzy kind of way. And people are like, how do you do that? I said, you have to come to one of my shows. So I'm trying not to be like the band next door or the band down the street or the band that, if we're doing a blues festival or a community day, series. I'm trying not to do that. And I put my all in it. And then I love both worlds because acoustic, the blues band, we do the electric blues and, love blues ballads. I just love it. But the acoustic, it's 4 of us, and it's acoustic guitar, congos. People are like, congos? I said, absolutely.
Wow.
And we added, we have a bass player, and then it's me. And so we do blues, gospel, and classic rock. And I love the acoustic because it's more intimate.
Right.
I can actually, it forces me to really engage in my audience. And that band, we started out a duo. Mike Houston and I, he's an acoustic guitar player. He was actually my first guitar player in my band that I formed back in the early 2000s, then became a bass player. But and then we got together, was doing duo, then it's solo. Now we're 4-piece. And I like both worlds, Kimberly. I tell people there is no comparison. It's different guys. It's not like, the drummer is it's not. It's 8 different guys.
Wow.
Blues band and that. And nobody has crossed over except for the bass player in the electric blues band. He likes my acoustic. He wants to play more acoustic with me. I said, really? I said, but you're electric. But he can do it. And he has done a show with us. And he really liked it. He said, this is different. I said, yes, it is.
Right.
I said, we do songs differently. We arrange stuff differently, just like the blues band. And so my third band is just gospel, and it's acoustic.
Oh.
It's myself, Mike Houston on acoustic guitar, Jeff Connors on keyboard, and my conga player, Bob DeCola. We were rehearsing because we have 2 gospel shows this weekend coming up, and we were rehearsing a few days ago. And Jeff, he's so good on keyboard. And I don't know. I think God was throwing bricks at me. He's like, "You need a gospel band, really?" Yeah. And so I hear the harmonies and how it's flowing, and I said, "I think we should do a gospel show. I think we should do a gospel band." I said it 3 times. And so finally I pinned them down. They were like, sure, just let us know. So the band is called Glory Be, a title after my gospel CD that's coming out in the spring, and the title of an original song written by Mike Sweeney out of Pittsburgh.
Wow. And
I called Mike Sweeney and I said, guess what? I formed a gospel band. You'll never guess what it's called. He said, the Glory Be Band. I said, how do you know? He said, because he said, you love that song. I said, yeah, that's true. And I'm going to tell you, Kimberly, all the years that I've been singing and playing, I just really started incorporating gospel in the other 2 bands maybe like 2-3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
And audiences have been after me, when are you going to do some gospel? You're going to do, you know what I mean? Constantly ask. And so I said, you know what? Why don't I just have a separate band? We just do just gospel. And that's it. Nothing else. Because I have 2 bands that I'm doing other music.
Exactly.
And so, yeah. So
wow.
That's done in a nutshell. Am I busy? You betcha. I work 5 days a week as a nurse.
I was just getting ready to say that. So you think you're busy enough? You think you have enough going on with yourself right now? I mean, that is excellent. Excellent that you have such a variety. I mean, to go from electric blues band to a acoustic 4-piece band and then now a gospel band. I mean, that's phenomenal. And so when are you going to do it full time? I mean, how do you have time to split all this up? You're still being a nurse, and you did say you're working more from home with this, but how do you have the time to do it all?
By me being a nurse and a mom, I think that helped me learn how to prioritize things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't go by nobody's schedule when I'm booking shows. I go by my schedule. I tried that in the beginning. That doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Because you may have bandmates who have other bands, like three of my guys in the acoustic are in other bands. And so I told them I book around me, my schedule, that's it. And so that's what we do. Everybody's, if there's somebody come up wants to book the band, they're like, here's Miss Freddie's number, her card, call her, she'll tell you.
Right.
What I do is at the beginning of the year, January, February, no later than March, because I have already started booking almost to the end of the year.
Right.
I tell everybody in the band, you need to let me know when you are not available, because I probably wouldn't book something if you're going on vacation, whatever you're doing. So It's about organization and management. Mm-hmm. And nobody wants to be the boss. You realize I'm the boss. I'm the manager, the booking agent, to give out the money if I choose to, unless I want to go run to the mall real quick. And I'm the one that, this is the song that I want to sing. Hey, here's an original song. So I do it all.
Yeah.
And I love doing that. I should have been an executive assistant, because I love arranging people's lives and calendars.
Well, but what you have, like I said, with the things you've learned has been a huge benefit for you. And that's important, no matter whether you were a music artist or if you're still being your nurse or any other business, you have to know how to do time management. You have to be organized. You cannot be all over the place, especially with you having 3 bands. And even if you have one, if you don't know what you're doing, it doesn't benefit you one way or the other. So let's talk about a little bit the business side of being a music artist. What are the things that you would give advice on, for someone who's interested in getting into this type of industry?
My advice, and from experience, is as far as the business side, and I noticed some younger artists, I would take up marketing. Definitely if you have to take a class, if you go to school for it, marketing, because nobody can market you better than you but you. Mm-hmm. And I have found that out, because there's a couple national artists there, they market themselves, and I'm like, wow, they do a really good job as far as PR. And if you don't want to take that, that side of the mountain, as I call it, surround yourself, get you a good public relations person. Mm-hmm. Make sure you research that person. See how many artists they have under their belt. See what they've done for the artist. That's important. And surround yourself with musicians. If you're going to form a band, if you're just going to be a duo, trio, whatever it is, make sure you are all on the same page. Make sure that you all respect each other, and make sure if you are the band leader, you are the band leader. Don't take advantage of that. Don't get all big-headed and think you're all that in a bag of chips. Right. Because you're not. Mm-hmm. Right. Because it'll show. And I would say, whatever you do, please get your name trademarked. My name is trademarked. Woohoo! Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. I did not know that till my second album came out, and the guy that helped me with my graphics, that's kind of his thing, and he was telling me all this. Get your name trademarked so that, like, 10 years from now, nobody said you look and somebody's like, oh, that's not Miss Freddie. That's right. Miss Freddie back there, Mm-hmm. So if they want to use your name on a cup or something, you've got carte blanche to that. That's important.
All right. Well, that's excellent advice, because I think a lot of times when people get into a business, and whether it's music or something else, the biggest part is that, they want to hone on to their craft, but then they don't know anything else. And you're going to miss out on a lot of great opportunities, or mess up your opportunity because you're not aware of the business side of it. Because anything you do, it's all related to business. So basically, what you don't know, stay in your lane, outsource it if you need to outsource it. If you're not outsourcing, you need to have a clear understanding of what it is that you're doing, because it doesn't just affect you. It affects everybody that is a part of your band that you're in control of. And, you are the boss lady. And so providing that great advice is important for anybody who is going into business. And, I've talked to many music artists and realize that that's usually a number one thing, is really constantly keeping yourself around the people that you need to be around, but also understanding the steps that you need to understand about what it means to be an artist. So do you write a lot of your songs? And if you do write your songs, how do you maintain them and you get the credit for everything? Talk a little bit about that.
Out of the 2 albums that I released in the last 10 years, 11 years, I do some. I don't do a lot because I have to be honest, I don't have time. I write poetry. But and people are like, well, that's songwriting. I said, no, it's not. I said, but I tell people that's another conversation. But when I do write my songs, like my one song that is actually on my first 2 albums are These Are My Blues. And, they're both copywritten. I'm BMI, ASCAP. So, whatever comes as far as the royalties, it comes to me because it's my song. Now, I've co-written songs. And so, but I found out something. A couple of co-writers I've written, they're BMI, but they're not under a publisher. So I had to establish myself as a publishing company through BMI.
Oh, wow.
And my thing is, and this is who I am. And I know my electric blues band guitar player, if I felt that I didn't want to take any money, I think it should go to my band. I was doing that till he found out one day some years ago. We got into a blowout argument. He's like, you got to stop doing it. He was lecturing me, and I said, but you don't understand. I said, it's not that I work. We all work. I said, you all work very hard, So I'm one, if I'm making money off of a song, I'm gonna give it to the songwriter. I am, say this is just for instance, say I get $100 for, song. Okay. I'll probably keep 20, 30 and give the rest, to, whoever the song belongs to.
Right.
Now one songwriter, he gets carte blanche. I can sell the CD, but he's registered as BMI, and somehow, I'm not sure how that works. I'm still learning that process. Okay. He does get, for whatever, however many times his song plays, he gets a little cut of that. So and I'm fine with that. So that's why I tell people, learn marketing, learn finance, because that's important if you want to keep up with your own money. So.
Absolutely. And like you said, you're an indie music artist, so you do a little bit of everything. So you definitely have to be on top of all of it when you're running this type of a business. So, Miss Freddye, we're getting close to the end of our interview this evening. But before you go, could you tell the listeners how to get a hold of you and where they can find your music?
Oh, absolutely. You can go to my website, missfreddye.com. That's MISSFREDDYE.com. And to find my music, you can go on Spotify, add me to your playlist, Amazon, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Dweezer, Pefoma, Pefoma. Find me, like me, add me to your playlist. I'm on Instagram as Freddie Stover. I'm on Twitter at MissFreddye17. Find me, like me, go on Facebook, go to my musician page, Miss Freddye, like my page, comment, follow me.
Exactly. That's right. And subscribe, people. So don't just like,
yes,
subscribe. That's the most important part. Make sure you guys support Miss Freddye because, like I said, I'm excited to be able to share one of your songs this evening. But also, I want to thank you for coming on tonight's show. Do you have any last amazing words for my listeners this evening?
What I want to tell everyone out there, and it doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing in life, just remember this. No matter what or no matter who, don't let nothing, no one drag your spirit down. And yes, there are good and there's going to be bad days, and that's normal. And if you're having a good day, please get a hold of me if you've never had a bad day, because I want to know how you're doing it. And, just keep on going. Just, don't stop. Yeah, you're going to come through obstacles, and then you're going to have days that are be like, yay, hallelujah. You know what? Keep going and make sure, if there's one person that you can help them out, because you just never know what they're going through, because they don't know what you're going through. And people are appreciative of the littlest help. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said that better myself. And I'm excited, like I said, this evening to hear this song, a beautiful song called Something to Believe in. And to, kind of piggyback on what you just said, that it's very important to, think about what you're saying before you say it. Don't use your bad day and push it onto somebody else. You never know what they're going through in life. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. We all have good and bad days, but when you can uplift somebody in that moment, you have no idea how special that may be to that individual. So again, I thank you for coming on tonight, Miss Freddie. It's been such a pleasure. And as for my listeners, it always leads me to ask you, what do you wish has existed for you? And if you're trying to figure out how to get there, those dreams, and you want to turn those dreams into goals, reach out to me at Kimberly, WSBILC@gmail.com. Let's have that chat, because, sitting on the fence isn't going to get you anywhere. So let's talk about it. Let's get you going. And of course, if you want more of your resource for success, you can donate to support the podcast on our Cash App at $KMCLEMORE, or go to the website at www.wsbilc.com. Again, we would like to thank you all for listening to us tonight. We'll be back next week with more amazing guests, and be sure to follow us on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcast. But until then, enjoy the rest of your evening, and good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Everybody's searching for answers. Everybody's trying to find some meaning in their life. Where do we belong? Who will be our shelter? Looking for salvation, a haven in the storm. Tell you now, we all need something to believe in. We all need a light to see us through. We all need something to believe in. I found something to believe in a you. I was like a wayward ship that's drifting out to nowhere, tossing in the raging waters, trying to find my way home. You must be an angel